Imagine you're watching the news. Today's story is about Sofia, a brave reporter from Venezuela. Venezuela is a country far away where things are tough for many people. Sofia came to America to tell important stories. She wanted to share what she learned with everyone. She is very passionate about her work. Sofia isn't just any reporter. She focuses on families who are moving from their homes to find a better life. These families often travel very far and face many challenges. It takes a lot of courage. Sofia wanted to help people understand why these families make such a difficult journey. She believes that everyone deserves to have their story told, especially those who are facing hard times. Her goal was simple: to share their experiences so others could learn and care. She never expected trouble. Sofia's mission was clear: to give a voice to those who often go unheard. She understood that many people only saw numbers and headlines about migration. She wanted to show the real faces and hearts behind those numbers. She wanted to paint a picture with words that would help people connect with the struggles and hopes of these families. She spent hours listening to their stories. She heard about droughts that made it impossible to grow food. She learned about violence that forced people to flee their homes. She listened to parents who just wanted a safe place for their children to grow up. Sofia knew these stories were important. She believed that sharing them could change the way people thought about migration. She felt a responsibility to tell the truth, even if it was difficult. She wanted to show the world that these families were not just migrants. They were people just like her and you. The day Sofia was arrested started like any other. She arrived at the border early, the sun just beginning to peek over the horizon. She carried her notebook, a pen, and a small recorder to capture the voices of the families. She approached a group sitting quietly, their faces etched with weariness. With a gentle smile, Sofia introduced herself. She explained that she was a reporter and wanted to hear their stories. At first, they were hesitant, unsure if they could trust her. But Sofia's kind eyes and sincere words slowly put them at ease. One by one, they began to share their experiences. A mother told of walking for weeks with her children, their shoes worn thin. A father spoke of leaving his farm after gangs threatened his family. Sofia listened patiently, her heart aching with each story. She carefully wrote down every detail, wanting to capture the truth of their journey. She felt honored that they were sharing such personal stories with her. Suddenly, while Sofia was listening to a grandmother talk about her grandchildren, two IC officers approached. They walked directly towards Sofia, their faces stern. Sofia paused the interview, a knot forming in her stomach. She wondered what was happening. "Sofia Rodriguez?" one of the officers asked. Sofia nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "Yes, that's me. You're under arrest," the officer stated, his voice firm. Sofia was shocked. "Arrest? What for?" she asked, confused and scared. The officer didn't answer immediately. He simply gestured for her to stand up. The family she was interviewing looked on in fear and confusion. Sofia felt a wave of panic wash over her. She couldn't understand why this was happening. She had done nothing wrong. She reached for her bag, fumbling for her press credentials, hoping to clear up the misunderstanding quickly. As Sofia pulled out her press pass, she held it up for the officers to see. "I'm a reporter," she explained, her voice shaking slightly. "I'm here to document the stories of these families." She also showed them her asylum documents, proving she was legally allowed to be in the United States while her case was being reviewed. But the officer barely glanced at the documents. "You're being detained for being part of the migrant caravan," he said, his expression unchanged. Sofia was stunned. "That's not true," she exclaimed. "I'm not part of the caravan. I'm a journalist." She tried to explain her work again, but the officers wouldn't listen. They handcuffed her and led her away, leaving the family she had been interviewing in a state of shock and disbelief. The claim that she was part of the caravan seemed completely absurd. It was like something out of a bad dream. The claim that Sofia was part of the migrant caravan simply didn't make sense. A migrant caravan is a large group of people traveling together, often on foot, seeking asylum or a better life. Sofia was clearly working as a reporter, carrying professional equipment and interviewing people. She wasn't traveling with the group. She was observing and reporting on them. Furthermore, Sophia had taken all the necessary legal steps to be in the United States. She had applied for asylum and was waiting for her case to be processed. She had been given permission to stay in the country during this time. Her asylum documents were proof that she was following the rules. The families who witnessed her arrest knew this. They had seen her working, asking thoughtful questions, and treating them with respect. They knew she was there to help them share their stories with the world. They couldn't believe that someone who was trying to help could be treated this way. The arrest felt unfair and wrong. Sophia's asylum documents were more than just pieces of paper. They represented her hope for a new life, free from the dangers she faced in Venezuela. They showed that the U.S. government recognized her need for protection. These papers allowed her to legally live and work in the United States while her asylum case was being carefully considered. Having these documents meant she wasn't hiding or breaking any laws. She had followed all the correct procedures and was cooperating with the authorities. The fact that IC ignored these valid documents made her arrest even more shocking and unjust. It felt like her rights were being completely disregarded. The legal papers were a symbol of her trust in the system. She believed that if she followed the rules, she would be treated fairly. But her arrest made her question everything. It was a frightening experience that shook her faith in the principles of justice and fairness. Word of Sophia's arrest spread quickly. The family she had interviewed contacted their friends and relatives, who in turn contacted news organizations. Soon, the story was being reported across the country and even internationally. News outlets immediately recognized the injustice of Sophia's detention. They pointed out that she was a respected journalist with valid credentials and asylum documents. They highlighted the absurdity of claiming she was part of the migrant caravan when she was clearly working as a reporter. Many news organizations called Sophia's arrest a clear mistake and demanded her immediate release. They argued that detaining a journalist for simply doing her job was a violation of freedom of the press, a right that is very important in a democracy. They emphasized that reporters need to be able to cover important stories without fear of being arrested or harassed. The media was united in its outrage and determination to get Sophia released. Newspapers, television stations, and websites ran stories with headlines demanding Sophia's release. They published editorials arguing that her arrest was a direct attack on the freedom of the press. They aired interviews with legal experts who explained why her detention was unlawful. The media pressure was intense. News anchors spoke passionately about the importance of protecting journalists who were reporting on sensitive issues. They reminded viewers that a free press is essential for a healthy democracy. They shared stories of other journalists who had been wrongly detained or harassed around the world. The message was clear. ICE needed to release Sophia immediately and apologize for the mistake. The media wouldn't back down until she was free. They vowed to continue reporting on her case until justice was served. They wanted to send a strong message that targeting journalists would not be tolerated. The collective voice of the media was a powerful force, putting pressure on IC to take action. Beyond the immediate outrage over Sophia's arrest, some people began to wonder if there was a more troubling reason behind it. Was IC simply making a mistake, or were they deliberately targeting Sophia because of her reporting? Sophia's stories often shed light on the difficult conditions faced by migrants at the border. She reported on issues like family separations, overcrowded detention centers, and the challenges people faced seeking asylum. These were important stories, but they weren't always easy for the government to hear. Some people believe that IC might have been trying to silence Sophia because her reporting was critical of their policies. They worried that this was a way of discouraging other journalists from covering similar stories. The idea that a government agency might be targeting a reporter for doing her job was deeply concerning. It raised serious questions about freedom of the press and the right to hold the government accountable. This concern added another layer of urgency to the calls for Sophia's release. As Sophia sat in detention, feeling scared and alone, a team of lawyers began working tirelessly to secure her release. These lawyers specialized in immigration law and defending the rights of journalists. They knew that Sophia's arrest was unjust and that her rights had been violated. The lawyers immediately filed legal papers demanding that ICE release Sophia. They argued that there was no legal basis for her detention and that ICE had ignored her press credentials and asylum documents. They also raised concerns about the possibility that Sophia was being targeted for her reporting. The lawyers worked around the clock, gathering evidence and preparing their case. They contacted witnesses who had seen Sophia working as a reporter at the border. They collected copies of her articles and news reports. They built a strong legal argument to show that Sophia's detention was unlawful and that she should be released immediately. They were determined to fight for her freedom and ensure that justice was served. If Sophia were able to speak about her experience, she might say something like this: "Even though I'm scared, this experience has only strengthened my resolve to tell these stories. It's more important than ever that people understand what's happening at the border." She might continue, "I do this work because I believe everyone deserves to be heard. These families have gone through so much, and their voices need to be amplified. If I can help even one person understand their struggles, then it's all worth it." She might add, "Being detained for simply doing my job is frightening, but it won't silence me. I will continue to fight for the truth and for the rights of these vulnerable people. I hope that my experience will inspire others to stand up for what's right, even when it's difficult." Even in detention, Sophia's spirit remained strong. Her commitment to telling the stories of migrants was unwavering. She believed in the power of journalism to make a difference in the world, and she was determined to keep fighting for that belief. Initially, ICE did not release any statement about Sophia's arrest. This silence only fueled the concerns that they were trying to hide something or that they didn't have a good reason for detaining her. After several days of mounting pressure from the media and legal organizations, ICE finally issued a brief statement. In the statement, they said that they were reviewing Sophia's case and that they were committed to ensuring that all laws and policies were followed. They did not offer any apology for her detention, nor did they explain why she was initially arrested. The statement was met with skepticism from many people. Some felt that it was too vague and didn't address the real issues at stake. They wanted ICE to provide a clear explanation for why Sophia was arrested in the first place and why her press credentials and asylum documents were ignored. The lack of transparency from ICE only added to the sense that something wasn't right. Across the internet, people rallied to support Sophia. On social media, the hashtag #FreeSophia became a rallying cry. People shared her stories, her photo, and messages of support, expressing their outrage at her detention. Many changed their profile pictures to show solidarity with her. Online petitions were started, calling for ICE to release Sophia immediately. Thousands of people signed these petitions, adding their names to the growing chorus of voices demanding justice. People from all walks of life joined the effort, showing that this was an issue that resonated with many. Organizations that support journalists and defend freedom of the press also joined the campaign. They issued statements condemning Sophia's arrest and urged their members to take action. They organized letter-writing campaigns and protests to raise awareness about her case. The outpouring of public support showed that people believed in Sophia and her work. They recognized the importance of protecting journalists and upholding the principles of freedom of the press. The support was a source of strength and encouragement for Sophia, even though she was in detention. Sophia's arrest sent a chilling message to other reporters covering migration issues. It made them wonder if they, too, could be targeted for simply doing their jobs. It created a climate of fear and uncertainty, which could make it more difficult for journalists to report on important stories. Some reporters might become hesitant to travel to the border or to interview migrants, fearing that they could be arrested or harassed. They might be more careful about what they write or say, worrying about the potential consequences. This could lead to less coverage of migration issues, which would be a disservice to the public. However, Sophia's case could also have the opposite effect. It could inspire other reporters to be even more determined to tell these stories, to show that they won't be intimidated by attempts to silence them. It could lead to more in-depth and critical reporting on migration issues, holding those in power accountable. The impact of Sophia's arrest on other reporters remains to be seen, but it's clear that it has created a significant ripple effect throughout the journalism community. A free press is like a superhero for the truth. It means that reporters can ask questions, investigate problems, and share information with the public without fear of being punished. It's important because it helps us know what's really going on in our communities and our country. When reporters are free to do their jobs, they can hold powerful people and organizations accountable. They can expose wrongdoing, corruption, and injustice. This helps to make sure that everyone is treated fairly and that our government is working for the people. Without a free press, it will be much easier for those in power to hide things from us and to get away with bad behavior. We wouldn't know about important issues, and we wouldn't be able to make informed decisions about our lives. That's why it's so important to protect the rights of journalists and to make sure that they can do their jobs without fear of being arrested, harassed, or silenced. A free press is essential for a healthy democracy and a just society. It helps us all stay informed and engaged, so we can work together to make the world a better place. As of today, Sophia remains in detention. Her lawyers have filed multiple motions requesting her release, arguing that her detention is unlawful and a violation of her rights. The judge is currently reviewing these motions. A hearing has been scheduled in the coming days to determine whether Sophia will be released. At the hearing, Sophia's lawyers will present evidence to support their case, including her press credentials, asylum documents, and testimony from witnesses who saw her working as a reporter at the border. ICE will have the opportunity to respond to these arguments. The outcome of the hearing is uncertain, but Sophia's lawyers are hopeful that the judge will rule in her favor and order her immediate release. They believe that they have a strong case and that justice will ultimately prevail. Until then, Sophia remains in detention, awaiting the court's decision. The world watches and waits to see what happens next. The border between the United States and Mexico is a place where many people from different countries come seeking a better life. They are often fleeing violence, poverty, or natural disasters in their home countries. Many families are coming from Central American countries like Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador, where gangs and drug cartels have made life dangerous and difficult. Others are coming from countries like Venezuela, where there is political unrest and economic hardship. These families often travel for weeks or even months, facing many challenges along the way. They may have to walk long distances, sleep outdoors, and deal with hunger and thirst. They are often desperate for a safe place to live and a chance to build a better future for their children. The situation at the border is complex, and there are many different perspectives on how to address it. But it's important to remember that behind the statistics and headlines are real people with real stories, just like the families that Sophia was interviewing. They're seeking hope and safety. One of the biggest fears for families seeking asylum is the possibility of being separated. Parents worry constantly about being taken away from their children. Children worry about losing their parents. The idea of being separated from loved ones is terrifying, especially after already enduring so much hardship. Sometimes, families are separated when they arrive at the border due to complicated legal processes or misunderstandings. Other times, families are separated because of detention policies. This can have a devastating impact on both parents and children, causing emotional trauma and long-term psychological harm. Sophia, through her reporting, tried to highlight the human cost of these separations. She shared stories of children who were struggling to cope with the absence of their parents, and of parents who were desperate to be reunited with their children. She understood that these families were not just statistics. They were people with hopes, dreams, and deep connections to one another. The fear of family separation is a heavy burden for these migrants. Many organizations dedicated to helping immigrants and protecting human rights stepped up to support Sophia. These groups work to ensure that everyone is treated fairly, regardless of where they come from. Some organizations provided legal support, helping Sophia's lawyers build a strong case for her release. Others organized protests and rallies to raise awareness about her situation. Still others provided resources and support to Sophia's family, helping them cope with the stress and uncertainty of her detention. These organizations also used their platforms to speak out against what happened to Sophia, highlighting the importance of protecting journalists and upholding freedom of the press. They argued that her arrest was a violation of her rights and that it sent a dangerous message to other journalists covering sensitive issues. The actions of these organizations demonstrated the power of collective action. By working together, they were able to amplify Sophia's voice and put pressure on ICE to do the right thing. They stood as a united front. There are several possible outcomes for Sophia's case. The best outcome would be for the judge to order her immediate release, recognizing that her detention was unlawful and a violation of her rights. This would send a strong message that journalists cannot be targeted for simply doing their jobs. Another possible outcome is that the judge could order her release but impose certain conditions, such as requiring her to report to ICE regularly or restricting her travel. This would be a less desirable outcome, but it would still be a step in the right direction. Unfortunately, there is also the possibility that the judge could rule against Sophia and allow her detention to continue. This would be a major setback for her and for freedom of the press. It could embolden ICE and other government agencies to target journalists in the future. Regardless of the outcome, Sophia's case has already had a significant impact. It has raised awareness about the challenges faced by journalists covering migration issues, and it has sparked a national conversation about the importance of protecting freedom of the press. Her story is an important one.